Fox News alert, growing backlash against a group of Texas Democrats who fled the state on 2 private jets, all to block a vote on a GOP election reform bill. A short time ago, the remaining members of the Texas legislature voting 76-4 to have the Sergeant of Arms send for all members who are not present and, get this, arrest them if necessary. This is Outnumbered. I'm Kayleigh McEnany, and here today, my co-host Harris Faulkner, along with Emily Campagno, former State Department spokesperson Morgan Ortagus, and in the center virtual seat, David Avella, chairman of GOPAC. Welcome, everyone. Texas State Democrat lawmaker Julie Johnson, in a since-deleted tweet, posting this picture of her and other Democrats on a bus as they skipped town in a move to sink election reform legislation. Another Democratic lawmaker also getting ripped for mentioning their, quote, sacrifice, as this picture shows the group traveling with a case of beer. It was Miller Lite. The 50 or so lawmakers then boarded 2 chartered jets for Washington in Democrats' second attempt to block those voting bills. They're seen smiling on one of the planes without wearing masks. One of the Texas Democrats who fled said this outside the U.S. Capitol today.
We were quite literally forced to move and leave the state of Texas. We also know that we are living right now on borrowed time in Texas. And we can't stay here indefinitely to run out the clock, to stop Republican anti-voter bills. That's why we need Congress to act now and pass the For the People Act.
Yeah, those smiling faces to the left, they sure looked forced to flee the state and grab that case of Miller Lite. Morgan, coming to you. When they arrived at Dulles, they stood on the tarmac, allegedly taking selfies. I believe we have an image of that will pop up, all to post on their social media accounts. So they're forced out of Texas, forced to go take these selfies, forced on the social media accounts, on a $100,000 private jet with a case of Miller beer, not wearing masks while we're all forced to wear masks on planes. And then this video, they're now singing in the Capitol, the United States Capitol. Let's play that.
We will overcome. We will overcome someday. Deep in our heart, I do believe we will overcome someday.
Morgan, what a group of jokers.
Well, listen, I won't criticize anybody for a good selfie. Anyone who follows me on Instagram knows that I like a good selfie. Okay, listen, so I think they are, what's funny about all of this is that they are in the minority in Texas. They're flying to Washington, D.C., using the protections of being in the minority in order to ask for the Democrats to get rid of the filibuster, which protects the minorities in Congress. So that's a little hypocritical. The other thing is, you mentioned the cost of the private chartered plane, Kayleigh. I'd love to know who's paying for that. I mean, that's expensive. I don't have $100 grand. I wish I did, sitting in my back pocket for a private charter. So I think that they certainly can tell the electorate who is paying for that. And then, of course, from a PR perspective, listen, I think this is actually working for them. We're talking about them today. We wouldn't be talking about what's going on in Texas if it wasn't for the fact that they pulled this stunt. So, you know, good on them for selfies and pulling a stunt, but they're not actually going to accomplish anything by fleeing the state.
Real quickly, so on the Faulkner Focus, we reported where the money was coming from. It's from the Democratic Congressional Caucus. And yeah, so I mean, I still think it's an excellent question, though, because it has to do with, well, who's paying for their time, too. I mean, look, they should be doing the people's business, and there are plenty of people who worked across the country, work from home, but that's not what this is. This is hopping on a private jet, 2 of them, in fact. A few of the lawmakers took commercial flights, but you saw how packed that was. This is also probably President Biden's best argument that vaccines work. I'm not being facetious here. That picture, nobody's masked up. Now, Kayleigh, you pointed that out. I'm pointing out the flip side of this. That is a highly vaxxed crowd.
Yes.
Right? Well, obviously, the vaccines work out. The president should have given them Kamala Harris's, what was that, her 5th or 6th job to walk around
might have been the
vaccine.
7th.
Right, whichever of the jobs that the president has given the vice president that we're waiting for, actual evidence of. She could recruit those people to go on tour with her about the vaccine. Again, not being facetious, did you see the pic? And, you know, in some way, regard, taxpayers pay for that picture. So, yes, the Congressional Democratic Caucus paid for the planes. But think, when they come back, if Governor Abbott does deploy, you know, the sergeant at arms and others to go and arrest them to bring them back to the state capitol, you know, whoever accompanies him, that's our dime.
Yeah.
And I mean, I have 13 cousins, my sister, lots of people. I say our because they're my family down there in Texas.
Yes. You know, that's right. And I liked your creative communication strategy of using these Texas lawmakers for vaccination advocacy. Emily, we have a live picture now of the Texas legislature. I believe we'll put it up. Huge news that they voted to potentially issue arrest warrants to bring these 51 lawmakers back. What can you tell us about that?
Right. That's based on what's called the Call of the House, which is a procedural move that allows law enforcement to, yes, arrest these guys and bring them back to the chamber once they've fled at the behest of the speaker. Now, Texas learned the hard way in 2003 that jurisdiction stops at the state border. So unlike what they tried to do back then, other states and the federal government cannot pitch in and extradite these guys, which is why, as well, the governor and the lieutenant governor have specifically said when these lawmakers come back, that is when we will deploy this. It's our understanding that they will indeed move forth. Of course, things might change after this moment. But I think your point is so well said, Harris. Who is paying for this time, this stunt, this theater? And I respectfully disagree with Morgan in that I think it's not working. We're talking about them, but we're mocking them. We are ridiculing them because this is just another manufactured, self-congratulatory, dramatic moment. This is another Spartacus moment. This is another Supreme Court packing press conference on the steps moment.
Senator Cory Booker with Spartacus.
Where afterward,
Right.
everyone pointed out they fell flat on their face in what they thought, however, would be this dramatic, amazing moment to the tune also of what they're not voting on. It's not just this bill that they're not there for. They're not there for the funding of the legislature. They're not there for paychecks. They're not there for sports teams, gender rights. There's a lot of issues that are important to Texans that they are not there for, while they are, as State Representative Burrows said, heeding the siren call of social media and fundraising.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. This is not a good look at all. They're elected to represent the people of Texas, and instead they're drinking Miller Lights and taking selfies while we're all wearing masks.
Miller Lite is delicious.
It is.
Wait, let's just get that out
very
there.
True.
But what you're saying is maybe not in this scenario, mix it up.
Yes, exactly. David Avella, though, what is it about Democrats? When they can't have their way, their answer is blow up the system, pack the Supreme Court, end the filibuster, march out of Texas, you know, leave our day jobs. Why do they always end in just blowing everything up?
Democrats want the elections to be federalized, whether that be H.R. 1 or whether that be the now coming down the pike John Lewis voting rights bill. They want the federal government, not the state governments, in charge of elections. And this is just simply the next chapter in their push for that. Now, unfortunately for them, the facts don't match up with what they want to do. The 2020 election had the highest voter turnout in history. States governments are the ones running elections right now, and the 2/3 of state governments are run by Republicans. It's not Republicans that are the ones causing voters not to turn out. And there certainly is agreement that could be made on making sure we're sending everyone a ballot. It would just require all states to be part of the ERIE database system, or the ERIC, not ERIE, the ERIC database system, which allows states to know when people have passed away or when people have moved to another state. And there's a great example of it. A Secretary of State shared with me that a woman came to her on 3 successive elections and said, "My husband has died, but you continue to send him a ballot." And through their investigation, they realized the gentleman wasn't in fact dead, and he said, "Please don't tell my wife." Now, the way you curtail those type things is it's a true story.
A big bomb to drop in the middle of that.
But you make sure that secretaries of state have a system where they know how voters are registered and when they pass and when they move. But you have big states like California that don't want to be part of that system. But you have Republican states who have signed up, and you have Democrat states who have signed up. But we need to get all the states involved in this.
Yeah, and meanwhile, just as we head out, I want to point out the White House has a role in all of this, too. They haven't condemned these Texas legislatures. Instead, the Republican laws, which are expanding access to early voting, they're saying they're the most serious threat to our country since the Civil War, is what Jen Psaki said. What a laughable statement.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Kilmeade. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to click to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page. This is the only way that I know for sure that you're not going to miss any great commentary, any great news bites, any great interviews coming your way on Fox. You can get it all here on YouTube. So subscribe right now.